Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my March wrap up. But before we get into all the books that I read in the month of March, I wanted to talk about today's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a monthly subscription service for readers that brings the best new fiction forward by promoting new and emerging authors that you probably wouldn't have found unless you use Book of the Month. And instead of having to research and look for your next read, every month you get to choose from a carefully selected shortlist of books so that you can just focus on the reading. And if the selections for that month don't really catch your eye, you can go ahead and skip that month free of charge. Each book is also covered by the Reader's Guarantee, so if you purchase a book and don't like it, Book of the Month will replace it for free in your next box. And they also offer free shipping as well as a loyalty rewards program. Now that I've told you guys a little bit about Book of the Month, let's go ahead and get into the books that I picked for the month of April. The first book I chose was The Passion Project by London Sperry. First of all, I love the color. It is so colorful and cute. This is held in New York City and we're following our main character Bennett, and she's just kind of lost her zest and her passion for life. And along comes our male main character Henry, and they end up going on this journey to help Bennett reignite that spark for her life, and it's called The Passion Project. So they go and they try all these new things and hobbies in the city to just reignite that happiness inside of Bennett. I feel like the plot of this one just sounds so fun, and it sounds like something that would be right up my alley. The second book I chose was the new Olivia Blake book coming out. This is called Gifted and Talented, and it's following three siblings who are wanting to inherit their dad's company. Now they all kind of have their own thing going on, but what's really cool about all of the siblings is that they each have telekinesis and electrokinesis, so they can not only move things with their mind, they can also control and manipulate electricity, which is super cool. I'm actually a big superhero girly, and my favorite superheroes almost always have telekinesis. I just think it is so cool. So I'm actually really excited to read a book with three characters who all have telekinesis, and I'm interested to see how they use the electrokinesis as well. If you guys are interested in Book of the Month, they're actually running a special offer right now for the month of April, where if you use the code DIAMOND, you can get your first book for only $5. Plus you get a free hat, which is super fun. Who doesn't love free things? So if you are interested, go ahead and click the link down below in my description. And if you use Book of the Month, go ahead and comment down below your picks for the month of April. And thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. We're gonna go ahead and start out my wrap up with statistics like always. So in the month of March, I ended up reading 7 books in total. My genre breakdown was 2 romances, 2 fantasy, 2 novellas, and 1 memoir. My average rating for the month of March was a 3.46 stars. And in total, I ended up reading 2,138 pages. For my monthly TBR update, this month was a little bit different. I normally only pick 6 books, and I technically did still pick 6 books, but I also added on 2 novellas that are a part of a series that I'm reading because I had to read those in order to get to the next books in the series. And you guys will know that bare minimum what I'm trying to do with my monthly TBRs this year is to at least read half of them. So if we're counting those 2 novellas as books, I technically had 8 books on my TBR this month, and I ended up reading 4 out of the 8, which is the half that I wanted to do. So I am pretty proud about that. This last month was such a good TBR though, so I'm really excited to even get to the books that I didn't have the chance to get to this month. Overall, I would say it was an interesting reading month, kind of like how I've been talking about. I have been having this weird like mental thing recently where I haven't been able to fully dive into a book. It's like my mind won't stop racing and I can't focus on the words that I'm reading, and instead I'm like thinking about other things that are going on in my life or the world around me. And I think it's just because I've been like extra anxious recently, but I feel like more towards the end of the month I've kind of gotten out of that, and I don't know if it was just because of one of the books that I read that was really special and that I'm really excited to talk about, but I think I'm out of that now, hopefully me talking about it doesn't mean that I'm not out of it. But the book that I read after, I was like devouring, and I understand that sometimes with reading I'm gonna go through spurts where I read a lot of books every month, and then sometimes with reading I'm not gonna read as many books every single month, even though this is kind of like what I do. But it honestly feels really good to be able to read a book and just kind of like let my mind fall away now again. I've been really looking forward to having that feeling back, so I'm really happy that I have it back. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the first book that I read for the month, which was The Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is the second and final book in the Crimson Moth duology. The first one was Heartless Hunter, and I absolutely loved it. This is a fantasy romantasy book, and it is dual POV, and we're following our 2 main characters, Gideon and Rune. Rune is a rich and lavish socialite by day. A lot of people don't think she has a lot going on up here, that she's very smart, but by night she is a witch vigilante saving all of the witches in the kingdom that they live in, because witches in this world are exiled and sentenced to that, yeah. So not a good look, obviously. Rune is super smart though, and being inside her brain is so interesting to see how she plays things out. And our main character, Gideon, is on the complete other side of things. He is a part of the Bloodguard, which is the head of the witch getting rid of community, basically. And this is more of like in the Regency era. Like think of like balls and like courting one another. And speaking of courting one another, Rune and Gideon are courting one another, each for their own benefit. This one specifically starts right off with a bang. We got a lot of like this cat and mouse, like chasing each other moments and trying to find one another. And there's a lot of different things that both of them have to like come to in order for things to work out for them, and just like what they're fighting for the better. I really enjoy a fantasy book whenever it's more mindless and whenever it's just very fast-paced and fun, and that's what this book was. It was a lot of fun. It's not a ton of world building, it's not super crazy intense or a lot you have to understand, but it's definitely a really fun read. So if you are looking for something fun and fast-paced, and even if you're looking for a first fantasy read, this duology I think would be perfect for you. I think for me, where it kind of lacked a little bit, the beginning was a little bit repetitive, and it started to remind me of a book that I just didn't enjoy very much, that I was kind of let down by. But then the repetitiveness stopped. It was like enough repetitiveness for the cat and mouse stuff to work, but it wasn't like too much or overly redundant. There was also a lot of predictability in here, which I think since I have read quite a few fantasy books, I've been able to guess what's going to happen, and I kind of think that took a little bit of the like excitement and adrenaline rushing feeling out of it for me. I don't really like being able to guess what's gonna happen next, and so since I did, it was kind of disappointing. It also kind of felt like a lot of the things that were gonna happen that I could guess, they talked about it like the last chapter before the thing actually happened, and so it was like really easy to guess. And I felt like in the last book I didn't have that at all. There was like a huge thing that happened where I just did not guess it at all, and I was like shook, but I could like see how she like planted it and made it happen. Like it was brilliant the way that she did it, and in this one I was just kind of disappointed by that. I feel like since Rune is also a witch, I was really excited to see her continue to learn about her powers and use and learn different spells, but unfortunately we really didn't get a lot of that in this book. I feel like we were kind of just using the same spells over and over and over again, and it was kind of making it less fun and less magical for me, unfortunately. I do love our two main characters, Gideon and Rune. I love their love story, and I think it was very beautiful and very well done, them being together. I really felt for these characters and felt connected to them. I think that the ending was nice because it wasn't all predictable, but there was definitely a big thing that was very predictable. I feel like this is almost a different genre of fantasy whenever I really think about it, just because it's fun, fast-paced, and straightforward, and there's nothing too crazy going on, which a lot of the times I am most likely in the mood for, but I think I was just really wanting more out of this book because I loved the first one so much. As for my rating, I think I'm gonna stick with a 3.75. It was almost a 4, but I really felt like the book was like dragging a little bit here and there because of the plot things that I was really wanting to happen, even though it was fast-paced. So it was kind of weird. There were like a few hypocritical things going on, honestly, in my brain, so I had some conflicting feelings on it. But overall, again, if you're looking for a first fantasy read or just looking for something fun, I think this could be for you, or the duology at least. Don't read this one first because that would just be spoilers and you don't want that. The next book I ended up reading was the memoir I read this month, which was Bethany Joy Lenz's Dinner for Vampires. If you don't know who Bethany Joy Lenz is, she was on One Tree Hill, and I loved that show growing up. I think I watched the whole series all the way through at least 3 or 4 times. Like, that's how obsessed I was with this series and this show. And in this book, she does talk a little bit about her experience on the show, specifically her experience with her castmates, but it is mainly about her life outside of the show and what was going on then. And it turns out she was a part of a cult and she didn't even really know it. Literally on the title she says life on a cult TV show while also being in an actual like religious cult, which I think is kind of like a funny play on words. It starts off and she's really young. She's talking about her young life and how she wants to be an actress and a singer, musician, be on Broadway. She has all these goals and dreams and things that she wants to do and achieve, but her family's also really religious, so she's always grown up with this like more religious background. And once she grew up and like moved out, she started to seek friendship through religion, so she joined a small group. At first you're like, oh, like this is just normal, like this is just a normal small group of like-minded people who share the same morals and beliefs and religion, and then it just kind of tumbles from there. It is crazy what it ends up turning into, and it's also insane how much she was taken advantage of. And it was basically because she was so young, but she also had so much money because she was on such a popular TV show and she was finally making it in the acting world. And I don't really want to say exactly what happens or anything like that because it's obviously her story, you, you should read the book, but this is probably one of the best memoirs, not even probably, this is one of the best memoirs I've ever read. It was so interesting and intriguing to learn about her life and learn about the way she was so manipulated by these people. And I personally find almost anything to do with religion incredibly interesting. No matter what religion it is, really, to learn about a different religion and how different things work and how a lot of the times people can be literally controlled by other people because of a religion, just by manipulation, is so crazy to me and so interesting because it can literally happen to anyone. I really just thought this memoir was a breath of fresh air, and I thought it was very vulnerable and very beautifully done. I also loved how she voiced the narration of it, or I guess, I don't know if that's how you say it. She was the narrator of the memoir. I'm kind of going back and forth. I'm not sure. I don't normally rate memoirs just because I think it's weird to like rate people's life experiences, obviously, because this was very vulnerable for her, and I feel kind of icky, honestly, about giving memoirs a rating a lot of the time unless it is a 5-star for me, and this might have been my 5-star memoir. I'm just not quite sure yet. I feel like I haven't read enough memoirs. I have read quite a few actually now that I'm thinking about it, but I feel like I haven't read enough to know exactly what my 5-star memoir would be until I'm like, oh, like this is my 5-star memoir. But I highly recommend reading this if you are at all interested in Bethany Joy Lentz's life or reading about religion or cults or anything like that. It was so interesting and just so well done. So good. I highly recommend the audiobook specifically as well. I think anytime I'm reading a memoir and specifically the person who wrote it about their life is the one narrating it, it just becomes something else entirely because they're the ones telling their own story, and I just really love being able to directly hear from the person who the story is about. After that, I ended up reading one of the Skyward novellas. I read the first one, which is called Sunreach. There are 3 in here. The first 2 you have to read before the 3rd book in the series, and then the last one you read before the last book in the series. And this is a part of the Skyward series, but these novellas are following different characters that we don't normally get to see their point of view from. The Skyward series is almost always just following Spensa, who is our main character, and basically they live in this world where the humans have constantly been under attack, and they don't really know why or exactly what is going on, specifically of like the political stature of why everything's going on. And this is actually a YA sci-fi series. I don't read a lot of sci-fi. This is honestly like the first sci-fi series I've ever read, and I've really been enjoying it. But the pilots in this world are the planet's first line of defense from, and it's just been super interesting to learn how everything's been working. I've really been enjoying not being able to guess anything that's happening. I think it's just because I've never read a sci-fi book before. I also just love Brandon Sanderson's writing. It's so interesting, but also like fun and playful in a way. Like it definitely has YA aspects, and I don't know if he keeps that up in his adult books, but his writing is also just so bingeable. Like I totally understand why so many people absolutely love his writing and rave about his books all the time. This first novella though, we are following the character FM, and she is a part of Skyward Flight with our main character Spensa, and she is kind of on a different little journey in this one. We're following her for like 160 pages, which let me just say, novellas to me are so interesting because they could range from like 30 pages to like 250 pages, and an author can just be like, yep, novella. Like that is so interesting to me how that works. But this was definitely a longer novella. I believe it was like 170-ish pages or something. So we definitely got enough time with our character to understand what was going on and enough time to fully build up the plot. Plus this world has already been known to me and I kind of already know what's going on. So it's very nice to be able to reconnect with another character in this world that I've been reading about and absolutely loving. This novella though was so fun, very cute. There was a little hint of romance in it too that was just very fun and cute as well. And even though it was really fun and really cute, there were a lot of important things that happened for our plot and the knowledge that we need to know moving forward for their planet and their overall survival. This series also has a lot of found family embedded in it, and I think that this book just made me like fall in love with the found family aspect all over again. In the second book we were kind of missing that aspect a little bit more because it was just a little bit different, but definitely needed to further along with the story and like the way that the plot is going. But it was definitely really nice to be back with a lot of the same characters that I got to know and love in the first book. And yeah, I don't normally rate novellas either, but since this is a part of the series, I will, and I think I'm gonna rate it like a 4-star. It was just so cute and fun, and I really enjoyed it. This is probably one of the best novellas that I've ever read, which makes me really excited to read the other 3 that are in here. The next book that I ended up reading was a romance, and that was Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. I've been really excited to read this book ever since it came out at the end of January. Now the plot of this romance is a little bit different, which I really enjoyed. We're actually following a couple that is already established and has been together for years. We only get the perspective of our main character Sarah, but we are following her and her husband Caleb as they're trying to kind of reignite the spark in their marriage and figure out what they're doing, because right now it kind of feels like they're at a standstill. Sarah specifically in her life, she herself went through a lot at such a young age. She lost her mom. She had a really great relationship with her mom, and she was really lucky to have Caleb to lean on during that time. But she's kind of wondering like who she is without Caleb, who she is just like in general, because she kind of just felt like she grieved so deeply for so long that over time she just forgot who she was, what she liked to do, what she wanted to do, and things just kind of got like lost. Why did I want to say lost in the sauce while talking about something so like serious, Katie? Really? Let's just say for a really long time she was just kind of going through the motions with life. She didn't really know what she wanted or what she needed, and she's kind of just at this point where she's like, okay, like I need to figure this out or else like I don't know what I'm going to do, and she's kind of driving herself crazy in a way. And then she is going through this time of wanting to change and wanting to better herself as a person. It's kind of moved into her relationship as well, since she is married. That's just kind of how like marriage works, you know, whenever one person is changing, the whole relationship has to change, or it changes in like a different way. Even if it is just a small change, it will just end up changing. The struggles that these characters go through are so real. I love a real book, you guys know that. Like a real book, me, real book, there we go, like hands shaking, because whenever the characters feel real, I just relate to them so much. Like there's something to be said for just a fun rom-com-y romance. Like I'll eat one of those up any day of the week. But if I'm really looking for a book that's going to like change me, or I'm really gonna relate to, I'm wanting a romance like this. Sarah just went through so many things that I feel like I have gone through in my life, not regarding their relationship, but just regarding me personally, and the way that she experienced those things I felt myself relating so much to. She feels like she wants so much for her life, and she feels like she has to do so much just to feel like she deserves to live or deserves to feel love, and that's just like not how things work. And you can want to do things and you can want to work hard, but working yourself to the bone obviously isn't doable and isn't a good idea ever. And I feel like there were so many elements of this book that just really encapsulated what it's like to actually be in a relationship, especially a long-term relationship. There are times where you miscommunicate, there are times where you fight, but there are also times where you have fun and you joke and you do other things, if you know what I mean. For me, I think I'm gonna rate this a 4.25 stars. I just related so much to our main character Sarah, and I also love the little bit of found family we get in this book with the characters from Out on a Limb. I just think it's so beautiful, and kind of makes me sad that I'm not gonna get to experience another book with these characters, because I don't think she's gonna write about any of the other characters that are in these books, but who knows, you never know. I also feel like a lot of the struggles that Sarah was having, I didn't like exactly relate to, but it was the way she was feeling because of her struggles I related to so much. And I feel like if you're in your 20s and you're kind of going through a lot of changes and stuff like that, which a lot of us are all throughout our 20s, I think you would really relate to this book and really enjoy it. Then I ended up reading another novella, which was actually one by Fredrik Backman. This is my first ever thing that I've ever read by him, and it is called The Answer Is No. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I was just kind of wanting something short and fun to read in like one sitting, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very cute. His writing definitely is very comical, which I really enjoyed. It makes me excited to read his other books eventually, and I feel as if somebody else wrote this story, it would have been completely different than to what he kind of made it into being. In this novella, we're following this guy named Lucas, and he loves being alone. He doesn't really want to talk to other people, but he lives in this apartment building, and he's kind of at this point where people just like won't leave him alone. People just keep knocking on his door, people keep coming to him, and they're basically trying to get Lucas to solve their problems, even though they have like literally never really met Lucas before. And I just found that very funny and comical, the way that he wrote about it, and the way how Lucas was thinking about everybody in his mind was very funny as well. The problems that these people were having as well were kind of out there in a sense, but also some of them had like a different, deeper thing going on, which was very interesting how he was able to do that with his writing. Like, it's so funny and fun and comical, and then one second it's like, oh, we're talking about something like real and deep, which in just like 60 or 70 pages you're like, how does one do that with their writing? Like, it's just crazy the amount of power his writing holds. And I've only ever read 60 pages by him, so that is absolutely insane to me. I thought that the theme and the messaging of it was also kind of like deeper in a way. If you look closer into it, it's just kind of about, you know, you might always want to be alone and you might like your life alone, but there's nothing really truly like just like connecting with people and having special relationships with people. And even if you do like that, at the end of the day, you're still gonna want your alone time sometimes as well, which is totally okay, because I know I like my alone time. This was fun, short and simple. If you're looking for something, you know, at the end of the year to help with your reading goal, or just something short to read in one sitting, I would definitely recommend this. Now we're on to the sixth book that I read. The book that kind of just changed me a lot of things ever. Did that make sense? No, but I read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. What was this? What was this? What was it? Like, what was it? Let me just tell you right now, this was a 5-star read. The way that I felt after finishing this book, I felt like my soul was ripped out of my body, and then I started watching edits and watching all these things on TikTok, deep dives, all of those sorts of things, and I felt even more destroyed. So destroyed to the point where Luke and I have now started rewatching all of the Hunger Games books, and now I just want to start rereading all the books again. This is a prequel to the original Hunger Games trilogy, but it comes after Songbirds and Snakes, and we are following Haymitch during his games. I'm literally gonna cry. We did learn a little bit about Haymitch's games in the original trilogy, but being able to get a full book of them, since he was in the 50th games, which was the second quarter quell, the thing that made this quarter quell different was like so simple, but it made everything just like heavier and deeper and just like more because of what it symbolized and what exactly was going on. The little Easter eggs here and there and the lore drops that were going on, a lot of people have been saying are fan service, which, you know, they might be at the end of the day, but she did it in such a genius way that I didn't even think about it until I saw people talking about it in that way. The way that she connected every single character to Haymitch was so interesting and intricate, and I loved the way that she did it in such a smart way. To me, it would have been fan service if she just let these characters be shown for like 1 second or whatever, but it truly showed how these characters helped Haymitch or had an effect on him in some way. And not only are we getting these characters for brief moments and seeing how they affect Haymitch, we're seeing more of their personal stories and the things that they went through, which is just making everything from the original trilogy even more devastating. And now, since I've already watched the first Hunger Games again and we're about to rewatch Catching Fire, I think that I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like survive through that movie, because Catching Fire is my personal favorite everything. Nothing has really ever come close to Catching Fire. I love Catching Fire so much. I love the conclusion, obviously, well, and I love the first book. Songbirds and Snakes wasn't my favorite, but this might have come close. This was so beautifully done and so heartbreaking, and I think I'm gonna think about these characters forever. This is also very nostalgic to me, this whole series and fandom just in general, but I feel like I don't have the level of nostalgia that everybody else did, because I actually read the books in adulthood. I never read the books growing up, even though I watched the movies growing up. But I feel as if this book unlocked another level of loving the whole series that I just didn't have before when I was younger, even though I did love it, that I just now have. And I feel like this series will forever continue, and I will forever think about it in my mind. It was just so heartbreaking. That's really the only word that I can think of to think. I don't even have another word to say because I can't speak. It was brutal, it was heartbreaking, it was cruel, it was smart and just interesting. Like, I feel as if prequels aren't always necessary. This one was necessary. In my opinion, this is the cruelest that the Capitol like ever was to anyone ever. This is the cruelest that Snow was to anyone ever. And when people were posting online their reaction to them sobbing, crying their eyes out while finishing this book, yep, this is probably one of the easiest 5 stars I've given in a really long time. It just gave me that feeling, and this book is so incredibly special to me. Haymitch has always been one of my favorite characters, and I just love him so much. I don't even know what I just said. I feel like I word vomited at you, but whenever I love a book that much, that's just normally how it is, because I could literally talk about this book all day long. So I think we're just gonna stop right there, because if I keep talking, I will indeed cry. Just know that if you haven't read this yet and you don't like prequels, or you're not sure because you didn't like Songbirds and Snakes, this is so beautifully well done, and if you love this series, you will just love this and eat this up. I just finished filming this video, but I needed to talk about something else about this book, of course, because I can't stop talking about it. The political symbolism throughout this whole entire book is just so genius, and Suzanne Collins has always said, I'm not gonna like write something if I don't have something to say. Like, that's the only time she's gonna write a book, and she used her time wisely, and she had something to say. It was so beautifully done. One thing specifically about AI that was in this book, Plutarch was talking about how it's faster to do a certain type of like video and photo editing thing with a software, but they don't use that anymore because it's outlawed in the Capitol now. And it was definitely about AI, which obviously AI, like, we don't mess with AI. I don't use AI. I don't know. AI is just like a big no-no. It's not good for the environment. It's just not really good for like anything. And that's not a spoiler, but I thought that part specifically was really, really interesting. And just overall, the little digs and the little things that you don't really notice and you gloss over if you're not really like looking for them. I just like extra fell in love with her writing in this book. Just everything about it was so well done. The symbolism too, with just everything going on. It's so genius how she can tell a story that she wants to tell while also relating it to the things going on in the real world. The last book I read was a romance, and you guys are about to be so proud of me. Like, I'm not even joking right now. This book has been on my TBR, I want to say 3 years. Crazy. I know. It's been a long time. I did indeed finally read Archer's Voice. Yeah, I did it. This is obviously an OG Book Talk book, and I don't really know why it took me so long to get to it. I just never really felt myself gravitating towards it, but especially because it was on my TBR, I'm really glad that I finally read it and finally know exactly what it's about. We're following our two main characters, Archer and Bree. You do get both perspectives, but you get a lot more from Bree than you do from Archer. But I did like how the author, Mia Sheridan, did incorporate Archer chapters here and there instead of just doing like equal amounts of Bree and Archer. She just kind of like added him in whenever she was like, oh, like maybe he has something to say here. And I like that. I feel like a lot of authors don't do that. They're like, it's either dual POV or nothing, or like one chapter from the character that you don't get any perspective from. So I thought it was nice how the perspectives changed here and there. Bree and Archer both have really traumatic things that have happened to them throughout their life. Bree's thing that happened to her though was very recent. It was 6 months ago, and she decided to kind of like run away from her life, and she ended up in this small town in Maine, and she ends up meeting Archer, and Archer is just different. A lot of people in the town have kind of just like written him off because of the thing that happened to him in his childhood. He gets weird looks, and he feels like people are always talking about him, so he doesn't really like to go out, and he's just gone through so much in his life, and nobody's really been there for him as a shoulder to cry on or just to help him get out there. And Bree is like the first person that he's really encountered since all these things that have happened who has really tried to get to know him and who can really like communicate with him. And that part of the story was so beautifully done. I really enjoyed how they got to know each other. Like, it was making me giggle a little bit and kick my feet. It was very cutesy and fun at that point. I will say the spice in this book did end up getting a little bit repetitive for me. Listen, I love spice. I love spice as much as the next person, okay? But whenever it becomes like 2 chapters in a row, or it's super long chapter, and then you get another super long chapter of it, I'm just not really into that. I like a little bit more plot personally. The one thing that I did enjoy though, since there was like more spice in this book, is that the way that Archer and Bree thought about each other in their minds wasn't like only in a lustful way or only in a way where they wanted each other like that. Sometimes whenever I read books and it's like that, it just kind of icks me out. And I really enjoyed how they liked other things about each other other than like each other's bodies, basically. It felt a little bit more real to me. I think too with this book, I was kind of expecting the plot and the things that were happening more at the beginning, or the things that were mentioned then, just to be a bigger part of it, but it actually ended up being a lot more character based than I thought it was going to be. And I think once we got to like maybe like 85-90% of the way through, it kind of lost me. I do at the end of the day understand why the thing happened the way it did, but I just didn't think that that was the best way to go about it. And it also kind of felt like the whole time we were alluding to something else happening, and I knew what was going to happen at the end, like the shocking thing that really happened, which wasn't really my favorite because I don't really like guessing what's going to happen in a book. And it also kind of just felt unnecessary for all that these characters have been through as well. I did like the overall happy ending that we got, but I wish that we would have gotten there in a different way. But the interesting like politics and like family dynamics and everything going on in the town was really interesting to me, and every time something like that happened, I really had my interest being sparked. So I really wish there was more of that than there was, even though the parts of it that I did read, I did really end up enjoying. This book overall though was like incredibly bingeable. It is so easy to digest, and I feel like sometimes you just need a romance book like that. So I did enjoy it. I think I'm gonna rate it like a 3.75 or a 4. I read it pretty fast, so I did enjoy it, and the writing was good. I just wasn't obsessed with the storyline and the way that we ended things specifically. And while I was reading, I was just really wanting more plot things to happen. Even though I did enjoy learning about the characters and stuff, I'm just not the biggest lover of a character-based book unless I absolutely love the characters. I did love the characters, but I didn't love them to a point where I felt super connected with them, even though there were so many like beautiful things that happened in this book, so many heartbreaking things that happened in this book. I did feel for them. I don't really know how to explain this because I feel like I'm just being like contradictory towards myself. I enjoyed this book, let me just say. It just wasn't my personal favorite, and I think that is because of the way that the end happened. I think that I read like the first 70% and I really enjoyed it, and I was like looking forward to what was happening and wanting more plot, and I didn't get more plot, and then more towards the end things happened that just weren't my favorite. I think we'll leave it at that. All right, those are all 7 of the books that I ended up reading in the month of March. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts on these books. If you have read them, we can talk about them in the comments down below. No spoilers though, of course. This is a spoiler-free zone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you watched until this far in the video, go ahead and comment down below the dove emoji so I know who the real ones are who watched until the very end. If you want to keep up with me on the daily, go ahead and follow my socials, my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Goodreads. They're all always linked down below. And yeah, I think that is really it for today. I hope you guys all had a great March. I hope you read some great books and are also having a great day, and I love you so much. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Write me more books. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's get on. Peace.